Hello and welcome back to the Single Malt Review. If you were watching last episode, I said Ian Holmes, Whiskey Messiah, he wasn't finished, and he wasn't.
No.
He has managed to get us something really rather special. You thought the Jack Daniels was good. This is something which, as I alluded to, I don't think has ever graced the shores of our dearest New Zealand. I think it's something that's a world first coming out here. It is lot number 40. Not lot 40, Cask strength 12-year-old rye whiskey of Canada.
Yes.
And this is 100% new to me. I haven't seen lot 40 anything, let alone what is probably the best they do at cask strength and a full 12 years old. And that's pretty buggeringly old for any sort of North American whiskey these days.
This is only, I think, the second time any Canadian whiskies appeared on the show. It, of course, was the Standard Canadian Club we looked at before, but that's been it so far.
Yep. And I can, spoilers, this is going to blow that one into orbit, because we do get Canadian whiskey, lots of Canadian whiskey in the world, but it's usually Canadian Club, Crown Royal, and it's a bit... but as Canadians will tell you, they drink all the good stuff themselves, is the problem. So this is be a bit of a bonus for us here.
I love a good rye whiskey, but we usually get them fairly young out here. This is the oldest I've seen by a country mile, I think.
This is the oldest, well, this is the only age statement rye whiskey I've ever, well, not seen, I've seen them with whopping price tags on. I've gone, oh yeah, cool story, rye whiskey, and moved on. So we're very, very lucky with this one.
This is the first edition of the lot number 40 Cask strength, and it's from the Corby Spirit and Wine Limited, based in Toronto.
If they have a website, I couldn't find it, so please, links in the comments. That will save me a lot of time if I'm looking at some of their other bottles.
And a vigorous 55% ABV. Nice round number.
Interesting. That's 12 years old, 55. That's not out of the ballpark for aging in Scotland, Dunnage Warehouse aging. So I guess that's a testament to the significantly cooler climate of Canada versus American for bourbon, because 12-year-old bourbon, you'd expect that to get absolutely smashed in terms of loss because of the conditions in which their casks are kept. But anyway, so this is Dave's first time nosing this one. I've had a wee few samples myself, but we will see. We will see what the verdict comes out at.
That is a world of difference from what the younger rival tried.
Oh yeah, it's to call it pungent would be, and I guess we're early enough into it, I can say it might be the understatement of the year thus far. I'm sure we'll outdo ourselves sooner or later, but yeah, this is a pretty stonking nose.
Toast, gingerbread, all manner of spices.
What came to me nosing this one initially was the maple syrup in here is so real. It actually smells of Canada. It just seems so typical of that kind of flavour. It's rich, it almost smells syrupy, it's just so concentrated. It's really, really interesting. And super sweet, and then all of that rye stuff comes in.
Yeah.
It is deeply, deeply spicy. There is incredible quantities of nutmeg and cinnamon and ginger and more exotic spices. If I was to say the word cardamom.
I've never encountered cardamom notes of any of an Indian whiskey before, so that's new to me.
There's a bit of cumin in there as well. These sort of super pungent kind of
getting that one,
back of the olfactories notes, and they are all in here, and there's just so much of them. It's pretty fiery. It certainly has not lost its kick over those 12 years, but as we've discovered with the very few examples of old North American whiskey we've tried, that doesn't tend to go away. It probably does eventually, but it takes more than 12 years. Someone has to send us a bottle of, I don't know, let's go with a Rip Van Winkle 21-year-old. The definitive science there.
Oh, I've got to get in and try that.
So, the danger sip, here we go. It almost has like a viscosity to it. It has a thickness.
Wow. Yeah. It's an intense heat as well. It is extremely toasty.
And it's
maple syrup. There is a little bit of hear me out here, this is going to sound weird, but sort of a lime cream. Imagine a sweet lime dessert syrup, but extremely strong, very sharp, very citric.
Are we talking sort of juice or peel? Peel
Like
I can get behind.
Like if you had a lime syrup drizzled over some gourmet dessert. That sort of a intensely concentrated, intensely sweet, sticky.
Yeah, I think there's some orange in here, like almost a baked orange. Oh, or an orange zest, and just the intensity of the maple syrup and the intensity of those rye spices.
It's giving me massive gingerbread vibes of it. Ginger nuts especially. The old classic English ginger nut biscuit.
Yeah, just wildly spicy. I think the spiciest thing we've tried on the channel, or at least that comes to mind. We've tried other straight rye whiskies. We've tried Templeton. We've tried Wild Turkeys. I think we've even tried Jim Beam's, and they were all, they're all tastably rye whiskies, except maybe Jim Beam's. But
I think we've done Jim Beam rye, have we?
Oh, I can't remember. We've done a few. None of them were as instantly. In fact, this should have been our blind tasting exercise, because this is so clearly rye whiskey. It's the dictionary definition of it almost. It is so typical of that grade.
It's leaps and bounds ahead of always younger versions we've had. All of them, this has got new elements or transformed versions of what was in the younger stuff, which makes it is worlds apart, while also being quite familiar and an obvious evolution of that same spirit.
So I'm going to bring this down into I'm going to aim for the high 40s here, where I think this should broaden out a wee bit. Not that it's particularly constricted, but it's more of a long flavour than a broad one, and I want a bit of broad stretched out so that I can really, really tease out the notes here.
Ooh, that has, if anything, brought out a strong, sharp spirit note.
Yeah, there's a bit of a lash on the nose now. I think that's it's woken it up a wee bit. Not necessarily to its detriment, but boy, it's got a lash. It's got a punch to it.
The ginger has got stronger. It's sort of like a freshly cut piece of crystallised ginger. Oh, there goes the...
Oh, wow, yeah. That has really roused the... that's got its teeth out now. That's really
maple
quite
syrup,
interesting.
ginger syrup, freshly buttered gingerbread.
God, I don't know when I'll be able to say this again. I think this was smoother. Like, this was in more easy drinking whiskey at full strength. It's it's really gotten the whip out on my taste buds. With
the burn is substantially gone with a fairly modest addition of water for me. So this is more drinkable now, although some of those flavours are less of a sensory experience than they were with that full punishing intensity.
All right. Is there anything more in here?
Again, a little hint of lemon drops now. So more citrus again, more confectionery.
There's just like a thread of tart freshness to it, but it is awash in an ocean of thick, heavy, sweet spiciness. So it's quite difficult to knuckle down on. But yeah, this is a pretty amazing whiskey. It is. Scoring this is difficult because we are so far out of our comfort zone with such an old rye. This is really so different to what we have tried before. I just saw a website on the bottle. I'm sorry, corby.ca. I will surely go there at my earliest convenience. That was a bit of a reading failure for me, never mind. Although that said, they could work on their SOE. I couldn't Google that for buggery, so never mind. Back on topic, scores for this one. I really love this. There's a thing you can do with this whiskey, which I won't because it's a long-winded process and we just burn tape and valuable YouTube gigabytes doing it, but this will make one of the best old-fashions on planet Earth and possibly the galaxy. In a very real way, except for the 12-year-old bit, that's where it's kind of cheating. That's a very traditional old-fashioned, because the whole point of that cocktail was to kind of smarten up. I won't say make drinkable, because that's a bit of a slur on the Canadian whiskey, but the Canadian whiskey that was smuggled across from Canada during Prohibition, the old-fashioned was the way of giving that a bit of a zhuzh and making it enjoyable. We won't say drinkable, enjoyable. This will make the most goddamn deluxe old-fashioned you've tried in your life. It's so, so good. So if anyone actually has a bottle of this, I'd recommend that. It'll use up a first slug of the whiskey, because they're not slight cocktails, old-fashioned, so make it properly, look it up. But man, with some of that some of that muddled orange peel in there, just a wee bit of sugar, those bitters. Oh, it brings this whiskey to life. It's quite incredible. So yeah, owe it to yourself that one, especially if you're in Canada and can actually get your hands on the jolly stuff. But for the purposes of today, we will rank it straight, which I think it's still brilliant. It's 92 points from me. It is tremendous example of North American whiskey.
Yeah, comparing this experience, contrast it first with other rye whiskey we've tried and with other American whiskey generally, throughout North Americas. This one scores a 93 for me. It is a full-on sensory experience. The added age statement, it just sets it apart from the mainstream rye whiskey, which is pretty good to begin with. I've never had a disappointing rye, and it's just leaps and bounds ahead of that. Hopefully we'll see more old rye whiskey in the future, and all going well, we'll see some of this gem imported through retailers into this country.
We might. I'm not holding my breath, but we've got our prized bottle here, and we're going to cling on to it. So we'll just be the singular, extremely small-time barons of the only good Canadian whiskey in New Zealand.
Just fantastic having a chance to try something which is otherwise, we believe, wholly unavailable in our parts. So thanks again to Ian for his extremely kind
he has just outdone himself with this one. Proper whiskey hero, that man. Yeah. So everyone else, you need to get up your game, is what we're saying. Making you look bad. So anyway, oh man, I just want to sit and sip this on a porch, looking out into an autumnal scene. That's what this one makes me want to do.
A few months to go before that's
yes,
an option
alas, that's it is.
But lucky may still be some left to come that time.
Yes, indeed. So, thank you to Ian once again. Thank you to Canada for producing such remarkable whiskey, even if they don't give any away outside of their borders. That's interesting, but never mind. This is the Single Malt Review. Bit of an American bent there, but that's just how things petered out for the start of the new year. We will get back on track now with something a bit more traditional. Something from Scotland, I think. Stick around. We will be right back.